Social Security is one of the most integral parts of the retirement of most people who are retiring in the United States today. It's the part where we get the most questions and where people have the most insecurity as to when should they take, how should they claim it, things of that sort. 2026 is a year where we have the first big changes to Social Security in a long time, possibly ever. What are those changes? We're about to find out. What's up, everyone? This is Tyler Nowotny back here again to talk to you all about Social Security and some of the things that are going to be changing or have changed this year in 2026. There are a lot of big differences. Many things remain the same, but there are some interesting breaks for you, interesting potential tax breaks here. And so in this video, what we're going to talk about is we're going to go over the taxability of Social Security, some new potential deductions that you can receive from Social Security. But we're also going to go over how to make sure that you aren't limited out of those deductions, because the new tax breaks, they do have some clauses in them which could result in you getting zero deduction and zero benefit from these changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over them piece by piece. We're going to go over the taxability of Social Security. We're going to go over the deductions, and then we're going to go over how to make sure we're staying inside that box. Social Security can be a bit of a complex topic, and so when we go through this, we want to make sure we're very precise and go over exactly what we're talking about. As you can see here on the screen, we have the tax brackets for Social Security. And this is not the Social Security penalty for working. This is just anybody who receives taxable income in retirement, you're subject to these potential tax brackets for Social Security. Normally we go on the married bracket, but we'll start on the other taxpayers side this time. So this is if you're head of household, you're single, you're any other tax filing status other than married filing jointly, you're going to be on this side. So if you have below $25,000 of taxable income, your Social Security is not going to be taxed at all. If you have between $25,001 and $34,000 in total taxable income, what they're going to do is take 50% of your Social Security, and that is going to be taxed. Then, if you make more than $34,000 as a single filer, 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxed, which can really drive up your tax brackets, but just in general drive up your taxable income to a significant degree. Now, for the first 45 years, from 1940 to 1985, Social Security was not taxable. In 1985, they enacted these brackets with these exact dollar amounts. How many times do you think they've been adjusted for inflation since 1985? If you guessed zero, you are correct. So these dollar amounts you see on the screen here are the same dollar amounts that were the brackets in 1985. So what they wanted to do, that has been talk of remedy for this Trump campaign this year on, he really wanted to get rid of the tax on Social Security, but saying something and actually being able to get that through a divided Congress, that's a whole nother ballgame, and like on many issues, it's very difficult to do. So what they did do, what they did settle on and what they were able to get past was instead a sort of wraparound loophole deduction. What I mean by that is this. They did not make it so that Social Security was not taxable. That didn't happen. Instead, what they did was they added a deduction of $6,000 per filer for up to $12,000 for a married couple. You can deduct this from your overall income, and the goal was to try to offset a lot of whatever portion of your Social Security would have been taxable, or at least a large chunk of that. So this only goes until 2028. So this was a stopgap solution. This was not a permanent solution. This was not written into the Social Security tax law. Like I said, it's just a stopgap solution. So it runs from 2025 to 2028. Now, what this does is $6,000 for a single filer, $12,000 for a married couple. However, are there stipulations in here? If you are a single filer, you cannot have more than $75,000 in total taxable income. That is before deductions. So when we talk about all of this stuff, It is based on MAGI, that is modified adjusted gross income, which means before any deductions are taken out and are removed from the total taxable amount. If you have more than $75,000 as a single filer, what happens is there is a phase out, which means you slowly lose parts of that deduction, and then eventually that deduction just goes away at all and you don't get to benefit from it. For a married couple, like most things in the tax code, it's just double whatever it is for the single filer. So for married couples, you can have $150,000 of taxable income. Once you get above that 150,000 mark, there is a phase out, which means you don't lose the whole deduction right away. The deduction slowly starts to get reduced until you're getting no reduction at all. So it is important, especially now for this year until 2028, that you're monitoring your situation to make sure that you're getting those deductions, to make sure that you're not doing anything to put you over that hump. So if you're doing Roth conversions, for example, make sure that you understand that those conversions could put you over. It still may make sense to do that, but it's important to understand that Roth conversions are taxable income. And so we want to make sure we're not reducing our deduction by doing those conversions. This is just something important to monitor in general and to make sure that you're taking advantage of all this, because if we can lessen our tax bill, we want to do it as often and as frequently as possible. The other thing to understand is this. So I'm usually a big opponent of taking Social Security if you are working before the age of 67. Here's why. If you are working and you're younger than age 67 and you are taking Social Security, there is something called the Social Security penalty. This penalty is different than the Social Security tax. A lot of people conflate these two, and as often as I can, I want to go ahead and let you know and make sure and hammer it down. They are different, they are unrelated. The Social Security penalty only applies to earned income, which means taxable income you received from working a job. So why am I going over this now? If you are of Social Security age, you're receiving Social Security, we want to get that deduction. But if we're working and claiming Social Security, there's a chance we could be getting penalized on our Social Security and then also not receiving the deduction. This is just a lose all around, which is why, for the most part, if you are working full time and you're younger than age 67, it does not make sense to take Social Security. You're going to lower your overall Social Security benefits. You're going to forego any of the tax benefits that come from these new deductions. And so we need to stop it. We need to not consider that unless there's some extreme situations going on. One of the other updates for this year are the inflation adjustments. So for this year, the inflation adjustment was 2.8% for 2026. For 2025, it was 2.5. Now, I know what you're saying. A lot of people find that this isn't enough. How does this work? How is the inflation adjustment calculated? It's not arbitrary. The government just doesn't come out with a magic wand and say, we're going with this number. There is an index that they track, and it is called the Consumer Price Index. And you can actually look at the basket of goods that are in the Consumer Price Index. And so it literally is based on however much the Consumer Price Index went up for the last year. That's how much of inflation adjustment they give you. So if you remember back to 2023, the inflation adjustment was pretty large. It was about 8%. And I think people got used to that because it was so nice, a really nice increase. But then ever since then, it's been between 2.5% and 3.5%. And so what a lot of people are concerned about now is anybody who's been to the grocery store, who goes to restaurants, you know that it feels like inflation is going up more than 3%. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we feel like. That's the adjustment they're giving you. No amount of protest is going to make them raise that. And so what we have to do is when we're budgeting, when we're managing our investments, we need to make sure we're putting ourselves in a situation to succeed, not just this year, but for future years. Because we don't want to estimate and assume, oh, it's going to be 4% next year. We probably want to go in assuming the historical average has been about 2.7%. We probably want to assume 2.5%. and then make sure that if it is only 2.5% inflation adjustment to our benefit, that we're in a position to succeed. What I have pulled up here on the screen is an AARP survey, which vindicates exactly what I was just talking about. As I mentioned before, we had 2023, a record 8.7% increase, down to 3.2 in 24, 2.5 in 2025, and now it's 2.8. So 2023, people got used to that, and it helped a lot of people out, but now the inflation adjustments have fell off a cliff. As we have right here, the AARP does these surveys every year because they want to see what our retirees are thinking, how they're feeling. And most people in the survey, 77% of people in the survey said that a COLA of 3% is not sufficient to keep up with expenses. And I would tend to agree with that. And the struggle is we're not even getting 3%. I mean, 2.8 this year, 2.5 last year. And what's pretty crazy is in such a politicized time, Republicans, independents, Democrats all agree by numbers of 75%, 82%, 79% that it's not enough. So this is a unanimous issue it's not a political split. All retirees agree that the cost of living adjustments for Social Security have not been enough. And so, yeah, nearly 3/4 of older Americans, 72%, said a COLA of 5% would be ideal. And I would have to agree with that. And I don't think 5% is a crazy ask. Nothing's going to change now, but it's important to understand, if you're feeling this, there's a lot of other people feeling this too. You're not alone. But also we need to make sure we're putting ourselves in a situation so that we're planning for now and the future, so that if the COLA adjustment does stay low, we plan for this. We're there. Everybody, leave your comments, leave your questions in the comment section below. I'll be happy to go there and answer any comments you have. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, if you do have questions or you would like a one-on-one consultation, click the link in the description. It's complimentary. We'd be happy to talk with you and see if we can go ahead and help you out. Other than that's going to be all, guys. You all have a great rest of your day.